Hello and welcome to the Kim Iverson Show. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let's talk about the House passing this bill to basically effectively ban TikTok. This was bipartisan. You've got 352 members of the House who voted to essentially ban TikTok. 65 opposed the bill. It was very mixed, almost half and a half, with Republican support and Democrat support of this bill. Mostly Democrats opposed the bill, but there were several Republicans who opposed, and about 14 people who did not vote, and one person voted present. So this is a highly bipartisan and controversial issue. Now, let's get some of the facts out of the way first. First of all, does this bill actually ban TikTok? No, it doesn't really ban TikTok, but what it does is it tells TikTok that it tells ByteDance, which is the parent company of TikTok, that it needs to sell off the US portion of their app within 6 months, or the app does effectively get banned. So it's either you sell or we censor. The problem is that ByteDance has said that's impossible. You guys know it's impossible. We can't carve out the US portion with US users and sell that to another company. And then the app runs internationally in other countries. It's not feasible. Members of the House agreed that that's not feasible. So they know what they're doing. They know that this is a ban, that this is not, it's just sugar coated so that you don't think it's a ban, so that really it's not. It makes it to where the bad guy is ByteDance TikTok, right? The bad guy is them saying, well, you chose not to sell, so since you didn't sell, we gave you the option. You didn't have to be censored. When in reality, from a business perspective, it's impossible to do. So they're asking them to do something they know they can't do. They're effectively banning TikTok. The big question is why, and why so rapidly? This just suddenly happened. There's been some talk, of course, about TikTok, about banning TikTok. But look, the House is the most ineffective branch of government. And suddenly they hustle and they get this one thing done when they can't get anything else done. They can't secure the border. They can't agree on funding wars, which they shouldn't do, but they still can't, they can't get anything done. They can barely pass the budget every time, which is why we're always staring down a government shutdown. These people can't get anything done. But they suddenly got together and they banned TikTok. And the big question is why? Obviously, the reasoning is China. We have to stop China. China is the big problem, and they're going to have our data. As if China doesn't make every single electronic that's in our homes and couldn't, if they really wanted to get our data and wanted to spy on us, all they would have to do is show up to the country. All they'd have to do is stick some stuff in the electronics that we buy. But nonetheless, I get it. We don't want foreign countries or even domestic countries using users' data. Why are they targeting just TikTok? What's the issue with TikTok when I think we can all agree that we don't want any of these social media companies taking our data and selling it? That was the big issue after 2016 with the Cambridge Analytica scandal, and Facebook was, how dare you? You sold users' data to Cambridge Analytica, and then that was taken and used by the Russians. What were you thinking? So we don't want any of these social media companies using any of our data. Why not a bill that's more open and that says we don't want anybody? We don't. It's not just TikTok. It's all of you. All of you need to stop the selling of our data. All of you need to be giving complete privacy to American users. Why not do that for everybody? Why just TikTok? I want to play for you Thomas Massie's speech. He gave a really great speech about why this is such a problem. He, of course, voted against this. He was one of the few Republicans who voted against this. And, Republicans standing around saying, we're the free speech advocates. We're the free speech advocates. But then we want to ban social media, one of the largest social media platform in the world. We want to ban it, and we want to censor all these people. Why? Their excuse, China, because China is going to have this data. Even though ByteDance has said over and over, we're not giving China the data. The CEO even said, I'm not Chinese. I have to play this for you. Do you remember this when Tom Cotton goes after the CEO and the CEO is like, I'm not Chinese, I'm Singaporean. I just have to play this. I'm sorry.
You said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in
asking-
Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a
you
half
ha-
years in
Do you
Singapore.
have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Your wife is an American citizen, your children are American citizens.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm
Okay.
Singaporean.
Tom Cotton, not knowing where Singapore is on a map, not realizing that it isn't even close to China, and just because the guy looks Chinese and maybe even speaks Chinese, he is not Chinese as much as Tom Cotton is Australian or South African. All right, I mean, just unbelievable. Anyway, I got to play for you, Thomas Massie, standing on the floor, giving this really great speech on why we should not be banning TikTok, because in reality. Banning TikTok is just a Trojan horse. That the language in this bill doesn't stop them at TikTok. They can go much further than that. Watch this.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the other side is sincere, and we've not questioned that here today, and I won't question their sincerity. In fact, I think they've identified at least 3 problems that we have in America: moral decay of our society, invasion of Americans' privacy, and our competitiveness with China. But in this case, their cure is worse than the diseases. You know, there are ways to get at these root problems. We just haven't taken it upon ourselves to address those root problems with actual legislative solutions that have been put forth here in Congress. For instance, Mr. Warren Davidson's The Fourth Amendment is Not for Sale Act would put a strong stake in the ground to protect Americans' privacy, whether it's from our own government or some foreign governments. That is the kind of thing we need. We need warrants in the FISA program. Our government shouldn't be able to spy on Americans without a warrant, yet they are. Let's bring that to the floor and vote on it. These are the kind of cures we need, not the bill that's offered here today. The bill that's offered here today, even though I know it's offered genuinely, it could also be named the Facebook Protection and Enhancement Act, because it's not the American people who are going to benefit most from this. It will be Facebook. Their stock is going to go up if this bill should pass the Senate. Now, what are some ways that we could improve this bill? Well, it should at least have a sunset. I mean, that's the only reason we're able to debate whether FISA should have warrants in it, because it sunsets. And what have we observed? FISA's been abused. That's my concern with this TikTok ban. It will be abused. If it's just banning TikTok and ByteDance and copies of that, why does it need to be 13 pages long? And I know they say it doesn't ban it, it forces divestiture of the company. This sounds like when American companies try to do business in third world countries and a dictator says, well, you can do business here, you just got to give me your company, and now you can continue to do business. We wouldn't let another country take over Ford Motor Company for selling Ford cars in their country, yet that's what we're wanting to do here. And again, you know, this is a cure that is worse than the disease. Who's going to be prosecuted by this bill? Is it ByteDance or TikTok? Will they be taken to court? No. I mean, they're the target of this, but how do you elicit or effect a ban on them? By prosecuting Americans. The only way you can ban TikTok and the other companies from being here is to say what this bill says, which is we will bring civil action, the government will bring a civil action suit against you if you so much as host them here. If you have an app store that allows them to be here, you're an American or an American company, and you will be the target of this bill. Those are the only people who can be pursued under this bill. And I know it's in order to go after TikTok, or so they say. Well, I would just close by saying that, you know, we're sitting here with phones made in China. We're wearing suits made in China. We drove cars here with chips that are made in China. And they're our foreign adversary. And by golly, we're going to do something about it. What are we going to do? We're going to tell Americans they can't put a piece of software on their computer. They can't go to certain websites that the president designates. So I urge my colleagues to oppose this well-intentioned bill because it will have bad consequences, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time.
So Thomas Massey is right. I mean, this is basically becoming China to fight China. What's next? The Great Firewall. I would imagine that that is what's next. If they go down this road with this logic, which is we don't want China to have any sort of control or any sort of access to our population. This is what China does. China doesn't allow certain American apps into China because China is afraid of American companies having access to Chinese data, to Chinese citizens, to the Chinese market. They want to ensure that the billionaires that are made off of the Chinese people are Chinese people. That is how China operates. That is the criticism that the United States has against China, which is that they're not an open market to outsiders. Americans can't go in and sell their products, develop apps, and tap into the 1.5 billion people that are in China. That is the big beef. Yet then the United States wants to turn around and do the same thing and say, well, all right, if we can't do it there, then you can't do it here. And we're going to use national security as the reason for it. And this is what they always do. What they always do is they use fear, just fear in order to get people to go along with giving up their rights, giving up their freedoms, giving up their choices. They always use fear. That's what they're using. So it's so interesting to me how many people have bought into this. The very people who say they want freedom, that they believe in free markets, they believe in free speech. You know, they say they're fighters for this, and yet then they're so quick when they're afraid to give it all up. It's like what happened after 9/11, and everybody signed away their rights. It was just, oh, well, because we're afraid. And what are they afraid of? They're afraid of China. So this is their way of sticking it to China, but the only people they stick it to are the American people. That's who loses in this. We just become like China in our efforts to defeat China. And this would be just the first step. There would be a great firewall coming if this is going to be the logic, which is we have to stop any apps that we don't like because they might infiltrate and they might change the minds of Americans, or they might data mine. So let's go over some of the reasons for the ban. There's various different reasons why. There's not a unanimous agreement as to why people want to ban this. People have different reasons. The people who want to do it, they have different reasons. One of the reasons is it's owned by China, and some people are foaming at the mouth against China, right? That's the first most obvious one. This is just bitterness and anger and retaliation at China. That's what this is. Nothing more than that. If it was owned by any other country, it would be fine. This is just, we don't like China, and so we want to do something to get at China, and this is the way we're going to do it. That's a lot of people. A lot of people are concerned that and maybe it's a legitimate concern, but are we going about it the right way? That China would be able to take the data, use the data against of American citizens, and use that to some advantage somehow. But again, why then just target TikTok? Why not target all of social media apps and say none of you are allowed to sell data? We don't want our data sold. We don't want our data misused by anybody in any way. Not just China, not just TikTok. So why not do it that way? Another is there are a lot of voices out there saying that this is, well, for one, there's the excuse that this is just like, that this is just an excuse to gain control of narratives, to gain control of the population. So they're using this fear, kind of playing into people's dislike and hatred of China in order to get them to go along with giving up some of their rights. So it's like COVID, saying to people, well, this virus is going to kill you and it's going to kill grandma, and you don't want that to happen. So if you don't want that to happen, you need to do lockdowns and mandates and vaccine passports, and you've got to give up your freedoms if you want to be safe. That's what they said at 9/11. That's what they said at COVID. That's what they're saying now. You need to give up some of your freedoms because we need to keep you safe from China. And in reality, it's just a ploy to gain control. They don't like, probably, and this leads me to the last big reason why some want to ban TikTok, and it's they want to control the narrative. There is a lot of people saying that this was the pro-Israel, anti-Palestine lobby that went hard, and they get stuff done in rapid time. As Thomas Massey pointed out, Congress has not been able to get through quite a few bits of legislation that they should, like FISA Act legislation, even sunsetting these war authorization that allows us to stay in endless war. I mean, they can't deal with border funding, the budget. I mean, there's a lot of things that Congress is completely ineffective at. But why were they able to get through this so quickly? And a lot of people are pointing the blame at the pro-Israel, anti-Palestine lobby. In fact, a Florida congresswoman, I couldn't read the tweet because she's blocked me. I don't know why she blocked me on Twitter, but whatever. But this Florida congresswoman, she is, what is her name? Pam Keith. Pam Keith blamed the Israel lobby group AIPAC. She's actually I believe she's been really pro-Israel, but she, for whatever reason, blamed them for the large Democrat vote to ban the Chinese-owned social media platform. She said that, that's what this whole thing was. That there was a push. She says, "Wow, I'm shocked that Dems are voting to ban TikTok. This is AIPAC at work." So there's some blame there. Also, Times of Israel actually said that the major U.S. Jewish group backed bipartisan bill that could see TikTok banned. It was the Jewish Federations of North America said it supported the proposed law due to concerns of anti-Semitism proliferating on the platform. Also, Jonathan Goldblatt, is that his name, from ADL? He also was ranting about how that Israel has a youth problem, that it's not left and right, it's young versus old. Young people are on TikTok. Young people are being indoctrinated on TikTok to be anti-Israel, they're saying, and wanted to do everything that they could to get rid of TikTok, to stop the spread of this ideology that many believe is anti-Semitic. So there is that major push, and that major push has been extremely effective in, for example, getting rid of presidents of prestigious universities, replacing them only with other liberal presidents who also are still woke, by the way, but at least they're pro-Israel in their wokeness, and that happened at rapid speed. This banning of TikTok is happening at rapid speed. So people are saying there must be money behind this. This is not an actual imminent national security threat. Nobody's really afraid of China right now. There's nothing that has been done. There's no evidence of this. So there's no real reason to rush this through versus border protection, for example. So why? Well, that's because there's a massive push to change and alter and control narratives, and TikTok does not allow that. Young people are spreading young people ideas and young people thinking, and they want that banned. Some people are saying this is a good thing because, you know what, TikTok's just bad for society. They say, China, what they're doing on TikTok, though, Kim, don't you understand what they're doing on TikTok, what China's doing on TikTok? They are indoctrinating our youth with wokeness. They're telling them that boys are girls and girls are boys. They're telling them that, they're infiltrating their brains. And in China, when the Chinese kids watch TikTok, they get things like amazing musical performances and math competitions and people doing, other youth doing amazing things. When you go to American TikTok, you just see people twerking and talking about how they wanted to transition from boy to girl or girl to boy, right? So they're saying it's creating brain rot, mind rot. And that might be the truth. That might be the case. There might be a lot of brain rot on TikTok, just like there's a lot of brain rot on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else. There could be, but the brain, but that's, if you want to get rid of TikTok because you believe that it's just this existential crisis, it's causing brain rot, then why is it TikTok that you're focusing on if you're worried about the thing on the internet that's causing destruction of society? The thing on the internet that's causing destruction in society is porn. If there's one thing that you're going to want to get rid of, it would be pornography. That's the number one most detrimental aspect of the internet in our society by a long shot. And yet there's no discussion whatsoever to ban porn. Of course not. Because then they say, well, no, that's, we want to ban, obviously, child pornography, which, by the way, this guy right here, Solomon Friedman, he's one of the owners of Pornhub. He has been quoted and on video and in basically defending, telling lawyers how to basically help their clients who've committed pedophilia get away with lesser sentences, and even joked about pedophilia at one point, saying that, back in the day, pedophiles only got like a couple of years. And he said, oh, the good old days, just really disgusting stuff. He's a rabbi, by the way, which is also very weird, which is like Rabbi Shmuley hawking his sex toys with his daughter. It's just a very weird thing. But why aren't they targeting Pornhub? Why aren't they saying this is actually, and this guy doesn't just own Pornhub, but actually most of the pornography websites on the internet that dominate. So his company called Ethical Capital Partners, if you can't make this shit up, owns all of it and most of the porn on the internet. And they, ethical, ethical capital partners. I don't know how they could call themselves that. But this is, why not go after that? If you want to ban something that's bad for society, that is what you would do, right? That is what you'd do. Or you'd ban, you'd ban OnlyFans. This is also one of the worst things that's out there in society. 90% of the users of OnlyFans are married men. 90%. Most of them white men. Most of them, educated, white men, married, going to OnlyFans, which was sold to this guy, Leonid Redvinsky, who is a Ukrainian American, also Jewish. Have to bring it up, but he because there's a question which I want to get to, which is, and I know where this is going. I know many of you are thinking this, but look, it's the reality is the reality. And so this guy owns OnlyFans. When he bought it, it was just a site for celebrities and people to, for them to allow fans to gain access. When he bought it, he turned it into a sex shop, basically. And here's the guy that mainstreamed the hardcore porn industry. This is Al Goldstein. He was asked, why is porn overrepresented by Jews? And I think this is the crux of why there is no discussion whatsoever about banning porn, which has been highly destructive in society, including, again, a lot of child pornography that goes out there through these porn sites like Pornhub, which has been under fire for some child pornography and pornography put out there without consent and whatnot. This guy, he actually said, let me see if I could find his, he actually said that, that he's fine going after the Christian, my internet reset. So now I have to find this quote, but this, he basically, let me see, I'll get the actual quote for you. And this, so talking about destruction of society, if you want to destroy society, you do it at the family level, right? I mean, so in his 2004 book, XXX, A Rebel Without a Shoal, Luke Ford wrote about a conversation with Goldstein in which Ford asked Goldstein why Jews were dramatically overrepresented in the porn industry. And he answered, the only reason that Jews are in pornography is that we think that Christ sucks. Catholicism sucks. We don't believe in authoritarianism. Pornography thus becomes a way of defiling Christian culture. And as it penetrates to the very heart of the American mainstream and is no doubt consumed by those of us, by those very same wasps, its subversive character becomes more charged. Ford then asked, what does it mean to you to be a Jew? In which Goldstein responded, it doesn't mean anything. It means that I'm called a kike. Okay. So then he goes on and says, do you believe in God? And he says, I believe in me. I'm God. Screw God. Right. So this guy's not, religiously Jewish by any means. Really, also that rabbi that owns Pornhub, that's weird. Rabbi Shmuley, who's hawking sex toys. But this is, look, we know that the lobby is strong. We know that there's a lot of money. And maybe that's why these particular industries are not being looked at to being banned. Whereas TikTok is being considered as just like rotting American society. That is absolutely not the case. What's rotting society more than this would be the destruction of families that happens through pornography. Look, I'm not in charge of this. I'm just telling you what the truth is and what's going on. Why are they not looking at banning porn? Why are they looking at banning TikTok? They're foaming at the mouth against China. They don't really care about families. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about data. Otherwise, they would do more against Facebook. They would do something against porn. They would do something, so it's just nonsense is what it is. It's pure nonsense. And it will ban TikTok. TikTok is not going to divest from the United States market. They know where that's headed. If they do that, then Europe's going to do it. And then TikTok just will be no more except for a Chinese app. And they don't even want to set the precedent. They'd rather, I'm telling you right now, they'd rather just allow it to be banned and then let the American public scream about it and hope that there's a reversal because there's such outrage by the American public, rather than them divest and allow people to still have their TikTok, have their cake and eat it too. I don't think they're going to do that. They're going to fight. and they're going to fight in this very, look, I mean, in a way that makes sense. Fight by saying we're going to keep the censorship. If you want to censor, you censor, but you have to live with it. You got to own it, America. You got to own it. You got to own all of your hypocrisy, every last ounce of the hypocrisy. And there is a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to this particular ban. Wanted to bring it up. Whatever, call me names. I don't care. It is what it is. I'm not here to, I'm not making stuff up. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing and the rumblings online. And these are definitely the sentiments of the vast majority of people out there. A lot of questions about which industry is good, which industry is bad. Why are they good? Why do some go untouched? All important questions.